Guys, I want to share something with you, a personal experience that I think is very, very important for everybody to hear. It's not often that I'll share a personal story like this with just anybody, certainly not with the public. But I feel like this one is worthy of making a video. So, for anybody that knows me, or for those of you that don't know me, for as long as I can remember, I've had issues with depression, anxiety, uh, mental illness, let's say. Some of it is genetic, some of it's hereditary, I believe. Some of it is environmental. Some of it was the experiences that I had in my younger days. Whatever the reason, whatever the root cause, it doesn't really matter. The point is in my early 40s now, I'm still dealing with it, and I think it's similar to a drug addiction. Let's say smoking cigarettes. It's the same idea. It's something that you unfortunately will be afflicted with for the rest of your days. And I'm not saying that in a depressive sort of way, not to bring you down, but just in the fact that it is a fact. It's a matter of fact is that once a smoker, always a smoker. And I could say the same thing being a former smoker. I could tell you stories about that as well. Um, Even until recently, you know. I don't have an issue with tobacco anymore, but for many, many years I did. But it's the same idea with depression and anxiety and probably a lot of mental illness, where it's something that unfortunately you're probably never going to be able to shake completely. And again, don't get down with that fact. It's just a reality of the situation, you know. Whether how we feel about it is not going to change the fact, is what I'm saying. So, what I can share with you and what hope and let's not even use the word hope. Let's use the word like let's do something about it, right? Let's just not hope for things to get better. Let's actively take part in our own mental and physical and spiritual well-being. That's the whole point. It's yours. Own it, right? And I'm saying this to myself just as much as I am the viewers. But pretty much everything I say is going to be partially for me, partially for the viewers, people that can take something out of it. Great. If not, you're always welcome to go to another video or go waste your time with something else. But basically, I want to share with you how I was recently able to overcome a significant bout of what I would identify as depression. Now, when I say depression, I mean myself, I have been diagnosed with major depression. So this is the most severe type of depression that one can have. It's persistent, it's recurring, it's unexplainable. It's not like it's a chemical imbalance, or it's because of this or because of that, or it's a lifestyle thing or whatever. Those all may be contributing factors, but essentially it's something, as I said, that I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life. Sometimes it's very manageable, very easy. Other times, not so much. So recently, for probably about a week or two, right? I'll have this thing where, and this is life, right? This is life. Life goes up and down and up and down, and whether you have depression or not, that's just how life is. It's like you're riding the waves of an ocean. If life is the ocean, well, sometimes the waves will go up and sometimes they'll go down, and sometimes things are great and sometimes they're really shitty, and they oscillate. They go back and forth. So for a while throughout the summer. And for me, my depression is definitely tied to the change of seasons. So this year, being that I'm getting more involved in my shamanism and Wicca and Druidry and Hinduism and all the things, and Taoism and all the things that I study, um, I'm learning to observe and react, let's say, to the cycles of the season. The wheel of the year is turning, and instead of just watching it turn, I'm turning with it now. I'm observing the cycles and I'm cycling with it so that I'm part of something greater. It's just not me being a victim to this thing, to nature or whatever. It's actually something these patterns are both observable in the outside world, the external world, physical world, the mundane, but also within me. And I've noticed that with my depression, when the seasons change, typically my mood will take a nosedive. And this took several years of observing, making the connection, realizing that, hey, there's something there. It's not just a random occurrence. My moods and my mental well-being is shifting with the seasons. And for the most part, that's completely normal. That has nothing to do with depression. There's a reason why we refer to this thing called the winter blues. And because you get a case of the winter blues does not mean you have a seasonal affective depression or anything like that. It's normal. It's completely normal. There's a lack of light at this time of year, you know. They're the longer days of the year. They're darker. It's drab. It's gray. The color's gone. There's no green. It's all covered in slush or mud. Or if you're in the wet areas, then it's a lot of rain. If you're in the colder parts like we are, it's a lot of snow and a lot of cold and ice and you know. So, but there's beauty out there as well. And I think that's kind of where I'm going with all this, is that a lot of it, guys, like maybe the majority even of it, is how you react to things, how you perceive things. And then when we're not perceiving things accurately or favorably, then it becomes a matter of taking initiative, owning it, taking it into our own hands, and using our powers of alchemy to mentally, spiritually alchemize these bad feelings, these negative feelings, and turn them into something good. Sometimes it's not a matter of even transforming it, it's a matter of just observing it. Hey, I just noticed that thing, you know. I noticed that feeling. Why is this happening? Maybe you don't need to change it necessarily, you just need to be aware of it, and being aware of it will help you to make better choices, to mitigate the damage that it may cause, or potential damage, you know what I mean? So I want to share with you a personal story, and I'll try not to make this too long, but it's important that I share this with you thoroughly and effectively. So bear with me as I kind of figure this one out in my head as we're talking here, or as I'm talking with you. But basically, I had been doing so well. Hadn't had a bout of depression or anxiety, not so much. I will get anxiety for different reasons and different scenarios and different situations and contexts. But I'm able to deal with anxiety quite well now. I have a very extensive toolkit that I can use. So it's quite rare that anxiety will bog me down. It still happens. I still get the occasional panic attack, but not nearly as severe as it once was. And when I do get one, I know what I need to do to get out of it. It's not a matter of running away, right? Like the feeling wants you to do. It's this feeling of trying to escape the anxiety. And I'll go back to depression here in a second, but I think it's important to talk about this anxiety as well, since it is one of the more prevalent issues with mental health. But that to say, anxiety is not really a problem for me anymore. It's like the depression, it's like the smoking or the drug addiction, in that it's something I'm always going to deal with. I think it's never going to fully go away. But as I get, you know, develop a greater and greater mastery of my emotions, of my inner state, of my inner self, it becomes just so much easier to manage. It's not a problem anymore. It's just an inconvenience, right? Which is a huge improvement. Now, going back to depression, over the course of the summer, it's quite rare. You know, I might get a little depression here and there, a little titch, but nothing major, nothing like I experience in the colder months. From, say, starting in January, after the holidays, or around the time of the holidays, which can be stressful sometimes, around the late December to early January until sometimes end of February, early March, even into March, sometimes as far as April, I'm really down. Not every year. Some years are worse than others. Some days are worse than others, let's face it, but it's getting better. It's getting noticeably better. And I think that's from my practicing and learning how to alchemize these things and turn something nasty into something good. Imagine, let's use the example of compost, right? An animal takes a crap in the woods and something beautiful grows out of that. So it goes from, for, forgive my crudeness, but it goes from shit to beauty. It goes from something that we'd identify as revolting to being something nurturing. And that's the idea. That's the idea. The Hindus observe that, and probably the Buddhists as well, with the lotus flower. The lotus grows in mud. It grows in crud and yucky stuff, and it's a beautiful flower. So it's the perfect analogy, actually, with my teacher, Dr. Ray, who I'm learning advanced devotional meditation. He really brought that concept home of the lotus flower, and it makes so much sense when you think of it in terms of mental and spiritual alchemy. Now, just to finish my story here, so throughout the summer, doing well, staying busy, that's one thing I've noticed. If I stay busy, if I stay creative, if I stay busy with my hands, I'm physically active, I'm doing stuff, I'm taking on projects, oftentimes too much, more than I can handle. But aside from that, or that aside rather, um, as long as I stay busy, I don't generally have a lot of time to sit and worry about how shitty I feel. It just doesn't happen because I just don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I don't give it an opportunity to manifest until it becomes something worse than what it is. It's just, it might be a little feeling and then it gets pushed aside. It's like, I don't have time for you right now. If, you know, in terms of, I've been learning a lot of Celtic shamanism and mythology, and Celtic beliefs are animistic, where everything has a spirit. And my friend Mary really pointed out to me one day. She's like, "You realize that your depression has a spirit as well, right?" And I was like, "Oh, I never really thought of it that way." And by feeding it, I'm feeding the spirit of the depression and ultimately making it worse, allowing it to develop into something that's much more difficult to handle and to manage. So first, it is a matter of really not suppressing it, but keeping it in a manageable size and state. You don't want it to blow up. You don't want to feed it. If it is a spirit, if the spirit of the depression is there, well, I'm certainly not going to nurture it. I'm not going to allow it to take over my life, my body, my mind, my soul. Hell no. It's going to be under my thumb, and it's going to stay there so long as I need it to stay there, which is basically permanently. Sometimes it comes out, right, against your will, but then it's going to go right back under there. And it doesn't have to be this power struggle. It doesn't need to be this fight for control. That can be a little bipolar almost, or like schizophrenic. Not in the sense of that condition, but in the sense of like you're almost fighting yourself at that point. But you are not the spirit of the depression either. You are not the spirit of your mental illness. It's a separate thing, right? It's something that you've sort of taken in. Not like it's not like you're possessed by a demon or something like that, but it kind of is, right? And if you let it take over your life, it sure as hell will, and you will defeat yourself. That's ultimately what's happening, is you're allowing yourself to be destroyed. It's a self-destructive process. But over the course of the summer, I was doing fine. I was busy. The beautiful weather just helps the whole process of staying in a good frame of mind. Didn't have any issues. September came along, and all of a sudden there's these drastic shifts in temperature and pressure and humidity. That fucks me up. That fucks me up at the physical and mental level. I'll start getting more headaches. I do get migraines occasionally. Those will get much worse generally at that time of year. As we were entering October, I realized, okay, something has changed, and I'm getting really good at identifying it. and heading it off before it becomes something much more difficult to manage. So that to say, by the time October came, I was getting these really nasty feelings. Anybody who suffers from a mental illness probably understands what I'm talking about, but it's so hard to describe. It's as though your blood has been replaced by battery acid. That's the best way I can describe it. It's this feeling inside. It's almost like being electrocuted from the inside. It's this, I want to say an ache. It's sort of achy. It's kind of like when your leg falls asleep or your arm falls asleep and you get the pins and needles. It's a little bit of that. It's a little bit painful. It's a little bit uncomfortable. And for me, I feel it the most in my chest, in my shoulders, in my upper back, in my neck. And it's like this, I can't describe it. I hope you get where I'm going with this or what I'm trying to say. But it's like a tension. And it eats away at you. It honestly feels as though you have tiny insects inside your body and they're eating away at the walls of your arteries or something like that. It sounds horrible, and quite honestly, it is. I might be exaggerating it a little bit, but you know, at the same time, I'm not, because it's so uncomfortable and it's so debilitating and it's so distracting. When you're trying to focus on work or you're trying to focus on anything, reading a book, impossible. Impossible. I will try and read a book in this state. Okay, right now I'm kind of over it, so I can read again. But when I'm going through this kind of thing, impossible to read. I'll get through the end of a sentence and I'll already forget the beginning of the sentence. My mind is racing and scattered so much that I cannot get through even half a page. My mind will wander and I'll bring it back and I'll read a couple more. Sometimes I'll reread the same sentence, the same paragraph multiple times before I have to just put the book down and stop because I'm frustrating myself. Maybe that's not a good time to read. I'm a little stubborn. I'm a lot stubborn, actually. So I push maybe a little bit more than I should. But it's really hard to do basic things. Basic everyday, day-to-day stuff becomes a huge challenge. Getting out of bed, feeding yourself, taking care of yourself, dressing yourself. Like, basic things become incredibly difficult to do. And I know a lot of you are not going to understand this, and you're going to be shaking your head going, what is he talking about? How can it be hard to get yourself dressed or take a shower or brush your teeth or feed yourself and drink enough water? All these things that we know we're supposed to do. When you're in a deep state of major depression, you don't give a shit. You don't give a shit about yourself, and certainly you're not going to give a shit about your needs. So, and there's no talking your way out of it. There's no negotiation. It's not like you're gonna, make a deal with yourself to stop feeling that way. It's for the most part beyond your control, and that's what makes you feel so powerless to this affliction, to this disease, or whatever you want to call it. But I have found a way, and it's through mental spiritual alchemy. And what does that mean? Well, guys, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, okay? I probably had this most recent bout of depression, which has really been reduced over the years, okay? It's at a state now where I see it more of like a challenge, whereas before it would defeat me. It would floor me. I wouldn't be able to function at all. I've lost so many jobs, in years past because of this stuff, and nobody would understand. It would take somebody to be going through the same sort of thing to really understand. I have had some employers that were kind of sensitive to mental illness because either they've been affected or their family or friends have been affected. So I had some quite empathetic, and this is when I was in my 20s and 30s. I'm 43 now, so this was a long time ago. But nowadays, I've reduced it enough where it's manageable. And it's not like it'll just go away with a little bit of prodding or a little bit of effort. No. Like, it took me I was affected by this bout of depression for about a month. Let's say, I don't remember the exact date, but let's say from October 1st to October 31st. Like the whole month of October, I was racked with depression, to a lesser degree, some anxiety. What did I do to get out of it? I prayed and I meditated and I studied and I went inward, okay? And I'll be honest with you, okay? This is the biggest insight of the video. I hope you can get through it because this is a very powerful insight I'm going to share with you now, and it's very personal. I had to call, all right, all, not one, all of my spirit allies, all of my ancestors, all of my animal friends and pets who have left this world, all of my relatives who are no longer of this world. I basically, in order to get through this, needed to call the help from all of my spiritual allies. If you can call the help in addition to that, I would say don't do one or the other, do both if you can. Call the help of your physical allies as well in the mundane, in this world, your family, your friends, your therapist, if you have one, a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever, counselor, social worker, whatever it is. Put your pride aside when you're feeling this way and ask for help. Ask for help from people in this world. Ask for help from people in the spiritual world. Ask for help from people, spirit guides, spirit allies, animal spirits, whatever it is. Everything and anything should come to your aid because let's be honest here, okay? Mental illness is not something you want to fuck around with. People end up in very dark, bad places, okay? Hell on earth kind of places where they might feel as though they're cornered and they have nowhere else to go, no one to turn to, and then they end up taking their own lives. And I find that so tragic and so sad and so unnecessary, okay? I've been there, and if you're going through that now, I know what you're going through. I'm not just saying that now, okay? I know what you're going through. It's empathy now. I'm not feeling bad for you in a sympathetic way. I am empathizing with you because I've been there, okay? If you're having these sort of dark thoughts, if you're having ideations of suicide, if you're feeling like you're alone and there's no one else out there, I can assure you that you just need to get through this moment. Forget about just getting through the day. A lot of people say that. Just get through the end of the day. For some people in that situation, that will seem like agony. It will seem like forever to get through that day. I want you to get through this moment. And then I want you to get through the next moment. And the next moment after that. You're going to take it one moment at a time until you get to the end of the day. But I don't want you to think ahead. You're only going to think about this moment. That's it. And all you're going to do is you're going to close your eyes. You do some deep breathing, some meditation. If you're not trained on how to meditate, it's a very simple process. You don't put pressure on yourself. You don't. It's not a prescribed thing. You just close your eyes and go inward. Everybody knows how to do it. Stop trying to do it and just do it. Okay? Don't follow anybody else's method. Do what works for you. Now, all you're going to do, in addition to asking your allies, both in this world, in the spirit world, for help, that's number one, okay? I've got my ancestral altar over here in the corner that I pray to every morning, and I acknowledge the ancestors, and I acknowledge my beloved family members who have gone, and my animal friends and my pets. I acknowledge them every morning, and they help me. They help me. They help me more than, I hate to say it, but more than all the people on this planet combined can help me. Okay, so that's how powerful that is. So I would start with asking for help at the spiritual level, Ask for help. If you're a believer in God, ask God for help, the Creator. If you're an atheist or an agnostic, ask Mother Nature to help you. Go outside, take your shoes off, take your socks off, go stand in the earth and ask Mother Nature to help you. Because whether you believe in God or not, you can believe in the power of nature. Nature is a force that, that sort of governs all of us. And it's the source of creation for all living things. So, and that can be seen in a secular way. Now, after that, ask your physical allies for help. Again, the family, friends, counselors, therapists, whatever. And then the work is yours to do. Nobody else's job. It's your job to get yourself out of this funk. And what you're going to do is every day until you feel better, you're going to go inward. Now, don't isolate yourself. Don't lock yourself in a dark room and just sleep all day. That's not good either. You have to go on with your life. You have to continue with your work. You got to do what you got to do. You got to take care of your kids. You got to keep going with your life. You can't just allow yourself to be defeated and stop in your tracks. That will just compound the problem. But I'm not even going to give you a time of how much time you should spend doing this. It's not about the time. It's about your commitment to your mental and spiritual and physical health. Once you get to that commitment, you'll see that things will start to change. And what are we doing to alchemize these feelings exactly? To go back to my analogy of turning shit into gold. Basically, that's what we're doing. From lead, right, which is a metal that's not so useful. A lot of people think alchemy involves lead to gold. Okay, it's figurative. It's an analogy. It's metaphorical. The lead represents shitty things. Okay, and the gold represents good things. Okay, so we're gonna turn something shitty into something good. How do we do that? It's just a matter of giving it the attention that it needs to transform. It's really that simple. You don't have to overthink it. You don't have to overcomplicate it. All you have to do, once you've asked for help from your allies, is go inward and start asking yourself what it is that I feel. What am I feeling right now? Where is it located in me? Am I feeling it in my shoulders, in my chest, in my back, in my head, my temples? Am I feeling it in my legs and my hips? Like a lot of people, they have physical symptoms or physical illnesses, diseases, whatever, like arthritis, for example, and that will put a serious damper on their mood. Understandably so. When you're in physical pain every day, pretty hard to feel chipper and upbeat. It's gonna weigh you down, of course. But you have to start somewhere. You have to start by closing the eyes, taking some deep breaths, and just relax. Let go of that tension. Do a body scan. Figure out what's going on and where. And then gently start sort of mentally massaging it from the inside. Does that make sense? When I say mental massage, do you understand what I mean by that? Imagine someone massaging your shoulders to take that tension out of it. Wow, actually, I can feel my shoulders are actually pretty tense. I need a massage. Who's going to volunteer? But by doing this, I can already tell my shoulders, my neck muscles they're already loosening up. So you're going to do that same concept, and you can visualize that in your mind if it helps. You're going to do that same concept, but inside. So find where that anxiety is, find where that depression is, okay, in your body, because it's somewhere. You're feeling it because it's somewhere in your body. It's not just some intangible thing. It's there, right? Find where it is, and then start massaging it, the inside. Now, I realize that might be a little difficult for you guys to visualize or to do in a practical sense. Visualize it if you have to, of your hands, okay? Let's say your body shrinks down into a manageable size where you can go inside your body, and visualize, if you have to, massaging yourself from the inside. Another way of doing it would be simply to just will it to transform into something else. Appreciation can go a huge way for you. Gratitude can go a huge way for you. You wouldn't believe what gratitude can do for you. It's unbelievable. Okay? When you start thinking about all the things that you're grateful for, that you're blessed with, some of those things, some of those negative feelings will start to melt away. It may not get rid of it completely, but you're on your way now. You're starting the process, and it will diminish and diminish and diminish and diminish more and more every day, every moment, actually. When I was telling you to focus on this moment, when you're doing this work, you will see, okay? If you're not seeing progress, you're not doing something right. You're getting in your own way. You're resisting the process. Let go, massage the pain away, okay? And then you will see from moment to moment will be a little less and a little less and a little less and a little less. And then eventually you'll get to a point where you're at zero, okay? You don't feel good, you don't feel bad. And then you can work on feeling good again, right? Get yourself back to baseline. And then from there, you can start building upward. Now you're not in a deficit anymore. Now you're building your mood up. And from day to day after that point, you can keep rolling it into the next day. You can keep the momentum going, and you will go up and up and up and up and up. Now, there's a cap, obviously, where like for me, I'm so happy with zero. I will take zero any day, because to me, neutral means I'm not depressed. I'm not in the negative. So I'll take zero any day of the week. Okay. But I'm also realistic in the fact that I'm only going to get so high. Like, if I were to put a number on it, I'm okay with zero. I'm okay with +1. I'm okay with +2. I'm okay with +3. I don't think I'm going to get much higher than that. But maybe. Who knows? I don't want to put a limit on it either. Maybe someday I'll get so good at this stuff that I'll be ecstatic. And I'll be like Shiva, just crying tears of joy just because I'm so connected with the divine. That would be fantastic. But I'm also realistic in the fact that I'll take a zero. No problem. As long as I'm not in the negatives, I'll take a zero any day of the week. But that's not to say that I want to stay there, right? And it's not to say that it's going to be super easy every time to come out of the negatives. No. You know, you got to keep it real. You got to keep it real, but you also have to keep it real on both sides, right? You have to keep it real with the negative, but you have to keep it real with the positive as well. You probably have a lot going for you. Probably a lot more than you want to admit. You know, you're probably a very talented, gifted individual. Because I believe everybody is. I believe everyone has a strength. Everyone has their challenges, obviously, yes. But everybody has something to contribute to the world. Everybody has a spark of the divine within them. And that means that everyone's capable of love, of giving and receiving love. Everybody is capable of compassion and empathy. Everybody's capable of making the world a better place for themselves and for others. So I think the point with all this, what I'm trying to get to here, is that you don't have to stay where you're at. If you are feeling down, if you're in one of those funks, believe, first of all, that you can get out of it. Now, actually, let's go beyond believing. We're going to go beyond belief now. We're going to go to knowing with utmost certainty that you will get out of it. There's no two ways about it. Use your stubbornness. I'm a stubborn fucker. I use my stubbornness not always for, getting hung up on things, which does happen. But I can use my stubbornness and be willful, or I can use my stubbornness and call it vigilance or dedication or whatever, when you need that fortitude, when you need that persistence, you could see that as stubbornness, but it's a good kind of stubborn, right? When you got a hard head, that can work against you and that can work for you. So transform, right? Just like with the stubbornness, we can do the same thing with our depression or whatever mental illness. Transform it, right? It's only stubborn so long as you look at it as being stubborn. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be stubborn. It could be, wow, this guy is really determined, right? That's a sort of stubbornness. It's just you just look at it differently. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's just perspective. It's perspective. So can you willfully change your perspective like that at the drop of a hat? Probably not. But I guarantee you, okay, start by asking help, and then every day sit in a chair like this one, or this one, okay? Close your eyes, take some deep breaths, do a body scan, even if 5 minutes. Start with 5 minutes. If you're having trouble with this kind of thing, just start with 5-10 minutes a day. That's all it takes. And start going inward for the answer. We're so quick these days to Google every goddamn thing under the sun, you know? Oh, this thing's bothering me. Let's see what Dr. Google has to say. Or, oh, I don't know how to deal with this thing. Let me look it up. You know, let me watch a YouTube video. That might be helpful sometimes. But I'm of the camp that I think most of our answers are going to come within. Because there are problems. Nobody knows us like we do. Nobody knows our problem like we do. And that means that only we will be able to solve that problem effectively. A doctor doesn't know. They can only take a guess based on your symptoms of what you're going through. They're not going to be able to help you the same way you can help yourself. So empower yourself to succeed. Empower yourself to cure whatever disease, be it a mental or physical one, doesn't matter. Empower yourself to get better. Empower yourself to change. Empower yourself to see things differently. I was going to say see things the way they are, but the way they are is based on your perception, right? Because my perception of something can be drastically different than someone else's perspective. But there's some stuff we can agree on, though, right? And there's some stuff we can disagree on. But seeing your life and seeing the problems as being this debilitating thing where you're like trapped and there's nothing you can do about it, what is that mental processing, that unhealthy form of thinking, what is that going to do for you? Is that going to get you out of your rut, or is that going to sink you in deep? Is that just going to cause you to spin your tires more and sink into the mud? Most likely that's what's going to happen, as opposed to being grateful, you know, and I get how difficult that is. I get it. Trust me, I get it. Okay? But it's just repetition. It's just repetition. You don't take no for an answer. I don't know if I believe this. Well, just try it. Try it. Still, I'm not convinced. Try it again. Try it again. And again. And again. Okay. Something's happening. I don't feel as bad. Okay, now I'm at a -2. It's not so bad. -1. Feel alright. Now you're at 0. Now you're out of the rut. Now you can start on building in the positives. Building it up. Build up your life. Build yourself up. Right? But you can only do that by getting to 0. And it's not realistic to think, I'm going to go from a -10 to a 0. I know these numbers don't mean anything. It's just a way to explain this stuff to you in a sort of mental visualization sort of way where you can actually imagine something, where it's not completely hypothetical or theory based. But you're not going to go from a -10 to a 0. It's not going to happen. You can easily go from a -10 to a -9. I promise you. And then you can go from a -9 to a -8. Promise. I promise you can do this. You could even go, from a -3 to a -1. I went up 2 points. What does that mean? Well, yesterday I felt like I couldn't get out of bed. Today I got out of bed, but I still feel like shit. That's a huge improvement. Not being able to get out of bed to getting out of bed, and then you still feel a little shitty. Okay, that's an improvement. What's it going to be like tomorrow? That should encourage you. That should motivate you to want to keep going, to find out, whoa, what's it going to be like tomorrow? If you slump back down to a lower negative, you've done something wrong. Okay, I'm not saying that to shit on you. I'm just saying you're going the wrong way. Something in your approach is not working. You need to flip it around and go back to doing what you were doing before so that you keep rising. You always want to be rising. And these are all things that you can visualize. Visualize the tide rising, and maybe the tide, the waters are your uplifted spirit coming up. You could draw it, you could color it, where you start with like a really dark color like black or dark purple at the bottom, and then you make a gradient that slowly turns blue and green and yellow, and then you rise it up to like the red color. Imagine like the visible spectrum of light going from, ultraviolet to infrared. And it's not to say that, violet is a bad color, and it's just to give you a visual. Okay, you can go the other way if you want. If you like purple better than red, go the other way. It doesn't matter. It's the progression that I want to emphasize. I want you to think about. It's the progression. In what direction am I going right now? Because if you're going down, you're not applying the principles of mental and spiritual alchemy like I'm trying to explain to you. That's when you need to change your approach and try something else. Okay. Whew, boy. I really felt the need to share this because I feel so good to come out of this funk. I was in a funk almost all of October. I was in this funk. And by asking for help from my spirit friends and my ancestors, my spirit guides, my family, I'm better now. I'm better now. I'm not perfect. I'm not expecting to be perfect. That's not realistic. But I'm better. And tomorrow I'll be even better. And the day after that I'll be even better than that. It's the way it should go. And you should be hopeful. You should be motivated by that and encouraged. Don't give up. Don't give up. I love you. And if I love you, somebody else loves you. You need to love yourself. Okay? And you need to realize, like my mom used to always say, that tomorrow's another day. You can start again. You're not bound by anything. You're not locked into anything. Tomorrow is a new day. But for now, just get to the next moment. That's all I want you to do. Get to the next moment, go within, figure out where is this residing in my body, and start massaging it. I hope that helped, honestly. Thanks for watching. Be well, take care. Love you.